Hey, giant builders. So today I want to share with you a story about a special woman in the Bible that I like. So let's go see who that is.
Building spirituality, family, health, and business. This is The Giant Builders with Lois Wyant.
Hey, giant builders. So today I am actually recording this on Mother's Day, and I was thinking that I want to share with you two women that really stand out for me in the Bible. There's several wonderful women in the Bible, but these two stand out for me. So I wanted to share that with you. So when I was in junior high, I went to a church that had what they would call a game called swords. And so we would hold our Bibles up, and then the leader would give us a verse, and then we had to quickly find the verse. And whoever got the verse first stood up and read it. No, there was no rewards or anything like that, but it's just the accomplishment. I found the verse first. But one time, the leader said, find 2 Timothy 1:5. And when I was in junior high, I probably had never heard of Timothy's story. I mean, up to that point, you're hearing the most typical stories of the Bible. But this Bible really caught my attention because a person in the book I share her name. And so that really kind of was cool because I never realized that my name was in the Bible. But it says, I am reminded of your sincere faith, a faith that dwelt first in your grandmother Lois and your mother Eunice, and now I'm sure dwells in you as well. And I thought that was really cool. And it really gave me kind of oh wow, this Lois in the Bible had extreme influence on a person so much that he actually is included in the Bible. So I thought that was really cool. And I kind of see that as a goal for me, as far as to make sure my children and my grandchildren and the next generation is influenced by godly people, and to make sure that they are directed in God and know God. And so that was really important to me. And that's been with me for a long time. But as an adult, I have heard the story of the Shunamite woman. Now, I really, really like the Shunamite woman. She is a woman of, what would you say? She's she's strong. She's got oomph, and I really like her. So I thought we would just kind of go over that story as we just celebrated Mother's Day this past weekend, or what I'm celebrating today as I record this, but just to see her as a woman to inspire us as women to be more like her, because there's so many wonderful, wonderful qualities about her. So this is in 2 Kings 4, 8 through 37. And I've gone through this verse or this story a couple of times, once at a women's retreat, and then also last year at BSF, which is Bible Study Fellowship. We were studying some of the Old Testament and the things that happened through that. And so she came up again. And even at the BSF, I said, I love this woman. I want to be this woman. So let's look at it. It says, one day Elijah went on to Shunam, where a wealthy woman lived, who urged him to eat some food. So whenever he passed that way, he would turn in there to eat food. So this tells me that this woman is very hospitable. And so much that Elijah's like, hey, we're going to be past Shunam. Let's stop and see the Shunamite woman, which is interesting that her name is never mentioned, which I don't think that's so important as the actions that she has taken. So, and she said to her husband, behold, I know that this is a holy man of God who is continually passing our way. Let us make a small room on the roof with walls and put there for him a bed, a table, a chair, and a lamp, so that whenever he comes to us, he can go there. Well, we know that she was a wealthy woman because that was said in verse 8. And now we know that she's a very hospitable woman. It's like she's taking her funds, talking to her husband, say, let's build a room upstairs for this man who apparently is a godly man. And so when he comes by, he can stay with us. So that's wonderful hospitality, as well as just being so thoughtful to a stranger. One day he came there, and he turned into the chamber and rested there. And he said to Gazai, his servant, call the Shunamite. When he had called her, she stood before him. And he said to her, say now to her, see, you have taken all this trouble for us. What is to be done for you? Now, let's pause here for a second. So in biblical times, it would be inappropriate for a woman to speak to a leadership man or a leadership man to speak directly to a woman. So they're talking through his servant, which is kind of funny to think about it nowadays, like the woman standing at the door, there's a servant guy right there, and the guy that you're having a conversation with over there, and you're like talking to this guy, he's going there, that just seems kind of funny, but she respected that. She respected the positioning of the man. And I find that very humbling. So he said, so you have taken this trouble. What can we do for you? Would you have a word spoken to your behalf to the king or to the commander of the army? He's willing to really give her anything. Hey, I can ask the king for something, or I can ask the commander of the army something, because I know these people and I can get something that you want. But she answered, I dwell among my own people. Which what that means is that she's very satisfied with where she is. She's happy, she's content. She doesn't need any more. She is with her people. She's where she wants to be, and she's happy. So Elijah, we're assuming this was a little bit later, says to Gehazi, what then is to be done for her? Gehazi answered, well, she has no son, and her husband is old. He said, call her. And when he had called her, she stood in the doorway. And he said, at this season, about this time next year, you shall embrace a son. And she said, no, my lord, oh man of God, do not lie to your servant. But the woman conceived, and she bore a son about the time the following spring, as Elijah had said. So Elijah tells her that God's going to give you a child. And she's like, oh no, please, Lord, don't get my hopes up. Don't intrude. Don't intrude on my feelings. That would be a very significant feeling to be ruffled, just like giving her hope that she could have a child because her husband was old. We don't know their ages, but he said that she would have a child. And she did. When the child had grown, and because of the next few sentences, we assume he's maybe 5, something like that, he's not really old, but he is old enough to go out to be with his father in the field. So he went out one day to his father among the reapers, and he said to his father, oh, my head, my head. The father said to his servant, carry him to his mother. Because we all know that when somebody's sick, the mom takes care of them. And not saying that's a bad thing, but that is a gift that God has given us as women, is the ability to care and to be sympathetic to people. And when he had lifted him and brought him to his mother, the child sat on her lap till noon, and then he died. She didn't sit there in mourning. She didn't sit there crying over the baby. Her one and only son sat there and died in her lap. I picture her like trying to comfort him, trying to figure out, what's wrong with you? What's wrong with you? And just, when our babies have a fever or something, we just want to comfort them and pat their backs and just say, hey, it's going to be okay. But he died, and she went up. So she picked him up. That's the reason we don't think he was very old, because she picked him up. She went up and laid him on the bed of the man of God and shut the door behind and went out. Then she called to her husband and said, send me one of the servants and one of the donkeys, that I may quickly go to the man of God and come back again. So she hasn't told her husband. She hasn't told any of the servants. She hasn't told her neighbor. My son has just died. She just says, pack up a donkey for me. I'm going to go see Elijah. And the man, who still doesn't know what's going on, said, well, why would we go to him today? Is it neither new moon or Sabbath? And she says, all is well. You know that inside of her, not all is well, but it's her comfort in God that she knows in her mind that all will be well. So all is well. Then she saddled the donkey, and she said to the servant, urge the animal on. Do not slacken the pace for me unless I tell you. So she set out and came to the man of God at Mount Carmel. So you have to think about the fact that riding on a donkey is not comfortable. I mean, it's not a nice cushiony seat like in a car. So, but she's telling the servant, like, go as fast as you can. Don't worry about me, my bumps, my pains, the way it causes discomfort to me. Just get to Elijah. So when the man of God saw her coming, he said to Gehazi, his servant, look, there is the Shunamite. Run at once to meet her and say to her, is all well with you? Is all well with your husband? Is all well with the child? And she answered, all is well. There it is again. All is well. All is not well. Her son has died, but she knows that there is something good out of this. And when she came to the mountain to the man of God, she caught hold of his feet. Okay, so now she's in desperation. She wants her son. She wants him back. She's not even going to wait for the servant. She passes the servant up. She gets off of her donkey and she comes to Elijah to his feet. She's bowing at his feet. And Gehazi came to pull her away because she's not supposed to be touching Elijah. He's a man of God. He's way up on status. Even though she's a wealthy woman, she does not have the status to be touching him. So Gehazi's going to try to push her away. But the man of God said, leave her alone, for she is in bitter distress, and the Lord has hidden it from me and has not told me. Then she said, did I ask my Lord for a son? Did I not say, do not deceive me? He said to Gehazi, tie up your garment and take my staff in your hand and go. If you meet anyone, do not greet him. And if anyone greets you, do not reply. And lay my staff on the face of the child. So he knows now what's wrong. And so he's going to attend to it right away. He's going to send Gehazi to take his staff and lay it on the child. But listen to this. Then the mother of the child said, as the Lord lives and as you yourself live, I will not leave you. So she's saying, I will not go back. I will not go with Gehazi. I will not go back unless you go with me. So he rose and followed her. Gehazi went on ahead and laid the staff on the face of the child, but there was no sound or sign of life. Therefore, he returned to meet him and said, the child has not awakened. When Elijah came into the house, he saw the child lying dead on his bed. So he went in and shut the door behind the two of them and prayed to the Lord. Then he went up and lay on the child, putting his mouth on his mouth, his eyes on his eyes, his hand on his hands. And as he stretched upon him, the flesh of the child became warm. Then he got up again and walked once back and forth in the house, and went up and stretched himself upon him. The child sneezed 7 times, and the child opened his eyes. You know, a point here is that the number 7 in the Bible means completion. God completed things in 7 days. 7 days is a very significant number. And so then he summoned Gehazi and said, call this Shunamite. So he called her, and when she came to him, he said, pick up your son. She came and fell at his feet, bowing at the ground. Then she picked up her son and went out. So the strength of this woman is just amazing to me, as far as not giving in, not saying that, oh, well, this happened. I guess I'll have to grieve and be over with it. But she took things into her hands. She took action, and she got her child back. And I just would like to encourage the women listening, and men, I mean, anybody just listening, to think about the fact that when you're asking God for something, things happen. And I've heard it said many times, God's answer might be no, yes, or wait, but he always gives an answer. And we need to keep after him, keep asking him for those answers. So that's the Shunamite woman. She is indeed my favorite woman in the Bible. Love to hear who your favorite woman is if you want to leave a message in the text. And tell me, who is your favorite woman in the Bible? All right, giant builders, thank you. And have a wonderful day. And I'll see you next Tuesday.
Thank you for listening. This has been The Giant Builders with Lois Wyant.